Okay, we can start now. So, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for coming to the book launch of San Bernardino Singing, a newly released anthology about San Bernardino by locals and by people passing through. So this is an event put on by Inlandia Institute, which is a literary nonprofit organization that serves the Inland Empire with literary programs like this one. I'm Christina Guillen. I'm the programs coordinator for Inlandia, and I'm going to begin by letting you know who our contributors are today presenting. So today we have Carlos Cortes, Sheela Free, Michelle Gonzalez, and Linda Ravenswood. And I'm going to call on Carlos to please introduce yourself, and then we'll go around and everyone, please tell me a little bit about yourself and your contribution to the anthology.
My name is Carlos Cortes. I'm a long retired history professor from the University of California, Riverside. And my contribution to this book was one poem entitled Twin Cities.
Okay. Okay, let's see. And Linda Ravenswood, would you like to share with us next?
Sure. Thanks so much for hosting this, Inlandia, and congratulations on such a beautiful anthology. My name is Linda Ravenswood. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of the Los Angeles Press, and fortunate enough to have a piece of mine in San Bernardino Singing.
What's the name of your piece?
It's called, it's in two parts. It's a hybrid text performance piece. It's called Coffee in Rialto.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that in a little while. And I see Michelle Gonzalez.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Gonzalez, and I wrote a poem that's featured in the anthology, and it's called City Next Door. And yeah, that's what I contributed.
Thank you, Michelle. And we're still waiting for another one of our participants, and I'll give her a second to log in. But while we're waiting, I had a question for Carlos. So speaking of your poem, Twin Cities, and I found the ending of the poem most interesting about maps and map makers. Who is it that decides whether a city, a place is known more so than another, and whether or not you can even find a place on a map? I found that really interesting. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it's one of those things as I write about my poem. When I was coming out to Riverside, I looked at the map, and there was no Riverside on the map, but there was San Bernardino, east of Los Angeles. And when I got out here, I picked up another map, and there was Riverside, but no Los Angeles.
A place is known.
So I finally said,
and whether or not you can even find a place on a map.
Nope.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
And so I began to say, I wonder who makes these decisions. I wonder who decides whether cities live or die. And some map maker or someone sitting in an editor sitting in some office, who knows where, making these kinds of decisions. And that's why I ended it that way.
All right. Let's see. And I wanted to also see, so where you first grew up, was it Missouri? Is that right? Carlos? Carlos? Could you tell us where you first grew up? And
Kansas City, Missouri, yes.
Oh, there we go. There was a little bit of a delay.
Nope.
It's okay.
Oh, that's okay. No, at my age, no delays are too long. No, I actually was born in Oakland, California, but my folks moved back to Missouri while I was less than a year old. So I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and left there when I was 18, never to go back.
Okay. I was curious about, if you could compare that to the world of San Bernardino, and when you drove through and looking at the map, noticing maybe it was a twin city of Riverside. Was that your first impression? Based
Well, yeah, I wasn't sure until I got out here, and then I learned that two cities connected by a freeway. And that's began to set it off differently than Kansas City, because Kansas City is separated by Kansas, Missouri and Kansas are separated by a street called state line. And in theory, the state line, the line between the two states runs right down the middle of that street. And once again, in theory, you had to be 21 to drink in Missouri, beer in Missouri, but only 18 in Kansas. So we would go from Missouri over to Kansas and buy beer and drive down the Kansas side of state line and laugh at the police. Missouri police theoretically could not come across that median line and arrest any of us. So that was my idea of Twin Cities. When I got out here, I saw, no, San Bernardino and Riverside are different because they're connected by a freeway. And now they're separated by the traffic on the freeway. I almost never get to San Bernardino anymore.
Yeah, that's true. You know, and that is interesting. Just sometimes having to actually go somewhere to get a better idea of the place. Like Michelle Gonzalez, I just wanted to jump to you because in your poem, the way that you ended it, you know, after a list of things that you experienced and a lot of positive things of San Bernardino compared to probably the popular notion or common notion of what San Bernardino is. So to live somewhere is a different experience. And I was curious if you wanted to speak on that.
Yes, I always say that I live in Riverside, but I grew up in San Bernardino. My mom has all her siblings. She's one of 11 and they live in San Bernardino. And every weekend we were over there somewhere at a party, birthday party, barbecue. And so I feel like I know San Bernardino. So, and then I lived in Riverside, and most of my friends, they have this separate impression of San Bernardino. Like when I say, oh yeah, I'm going to go visit my family, and they would be like, oh, you're going to San Bernardino. But I have a different impression of the people, the things that go on there. So, and I was glad to get a chance to write the poem so that I could show other people different parts of San Bernardino and what that meant to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I'm really glad that you did that because we really need to show all of the faces, not just the one. And so Sheela Free has joined us, our other presenter, and I'm going to jump to Sheela and have her introduce herself and talk a little bit about her poetry that's in the book. So Sheela, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys. I moved from India to the United States in, 1983, and then to San Bernardino in 2002. And I chose to come here because I wanted to work with Valley students. And it just, I don't know what it was about San Bernardino. I've been writing poetry for forever. And it's been nurtured by my great-grandmother who's published, and my mom still has her original copy of poems in LA. And so, you know, I came here and then Gail came on campus, Gail Brandeis, and she just mentored me. And this was real mentoring, not just, oh, I like your work. She actually walked me through the steps. And so I was able to free up my voice and verse. And I'm just so grateful to her. And of course, Nikia, because I met Nikia. Nikia used to work with us at Valley College. And she held a poetry reading at the Carousel Mall about 3 or 4 years ago before she became literary laureate or while she was literary laureate. And then she ran this amazing idea by me where she said, they're going to tear down the Carousel Mall, take all the history, the heart of San Bernardino with it, and we have to keep it alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of an anthology so that all of you poets can share your memories of San Bernardino, what it means to you, you know. And we're going to replace it, she said, the gated community.
Okay, Sheela. And I think now we can go ahead and watch the video. So we at Inlandia had put together a video to combine under a theme that we thought could umbrella some of the poems. So today is talking about maps, Carlos, and passing through. So home on the map is today's theme. So we'll go ahead and view that now.
I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, across the river from our twin city, Kansas City, Kansas. So when I looked at a map in some magazine and saw Kansas City, I never gave a thought to which one was being cited and which one was being excluded. But when I accepted a faculty position at the University of California, Riverside, I quickly learned that depending upon which map, Riverside might be there east of Los Angeles, but sometimes it was nowhere to be found, giving way to San Bernardino. Or maybe they, too, were considered twin cities. And like my two Kansas cities, their individual existence was merely an illustrator's whim. 50 years and many maps later, sometimes with Riverside, sometimes with San Bernardino, often with neither, seldom with both. I occasionally wonder, who makes these decisions? Who decides whether our cities exist or become invisible?
The first poem I'm going to share is called Cul-de-sac is French. I want to preface it with two things. The first is growing up in San Bernardino, I grew up in a red-lined area, which means that we were segregated off, and it was a legal practice at the time where they grouped all of the Black people together according to a red line on the map. My mother didn't like that, and we lived on a dead-end street. She refused to use the word dead-end street. She always called it a cul-de-sac, and cul-de-sac is French for bottom of the purse. So the first poem is called Cul-de-sac is French. The bottom of a purse, possibly loose change, possibility of change. Turn around, come out from bottom, framed in barbed wire, the crisscross stop of steel, red line. Uprooted, she plants a laughing bush, a pretty tease of poison of pink and white oleanders, a red-lined ultimatum. Death is a bottomless black, but she believes in balance, plants Italian cypress in between oleanders, evergreen finger pointing skyward. Taller than pink and white blooms, barbed wire fences, our eyes travel upward, recognizing hope when we see it.
I'm going to be reading a poem about my grandparents, and this poem was first published in Inlandia, a literary journey, many years ago. It's called The I-10. Born in 1897, a San Bernardino native son, my grandfather lived to be 100. Late in life, when we would take him out for a drive, he would point to some shopping mall off the I-10 and say, "We used to in Ravenswood." When he retired from title insurance, he farmed in Cherry Valley, fruit trees and eggs. Later, in Yucaipa, he cared for my grandmother, who lingered 2 decades after a crippling stroke. With a will to live, she learned as a child in Randsburg, where her father worked for the mines. Time and again, I would head down the coast, pick up the I-10 in Santa Monica, barrel straight through LA's polluted heart to the hinterlands, Find my way to Yucaipa House, I wrote, gripping the wheel as I ran the gauntlet, breathing a sigh of relief at the exit. Then Riverside, a convalescent hospital on Magnolia Drive. My grandfather recalled when the stately palms were planted, Sunday drives before the First World War. He joined my grandmother at Desert Lawn, hardly a resting place. The I-10, a noisy witness to the end of their lives and the world ending.
Slowdown on Antelope Highway by Will Clark. Fritz Martinson was a very dear friend of mine and fellow missionary at Ikizu in Tanzania, Africa, in the late 1960s. After he retired, he was hired as a part-time pastor for a church in Mojave, California. While serving there in the 1990s, cancer caught up with him and killed him. To get to his funeral, we drove up the Cajon Pass, out of San Bernardino, and along the mountainous Antelope Highway through Lancaster. In the 1990s, it was a two-lane highway that climbed steadily up into the high desert along the San Gabriel Mountains. Ahead of us was a small pickup pulling a big trailer. The trailer obviously slowed him down, so that he had a long line of cars following. I was immediately behind him and chafing to get around him. I looked forward to the next passing lane, where I could surely pass him. But that was not to be. Selfishly, the driver did not pull over and let us pass him, as the highway design suggested. Instead, he just hogged the main lane. I sputtered and fumed and questioned the driver's ancestry. My dad, who had also known Fritz, was riding with me. He said nothing, just muttered his feeling under his breath. Eventually, we reached another passing lane. This time, I got around him on the right. I heard Dad heave a sigh of relief, but I was indeed angry and plotting vengeance. After I got around him and we were again on the two-lane road, I slowed down gradually to about 20 miles per hour. The selfish driver came right up to my rear bumper, but then had to slow down too. Dad said softly and sympathetically, "Don't slow the driver. He might not be able to get up to speed again." I grunted, served him right. Then I went on the long mountain pass at normal speed, leaving him far behind. I felt justified in slowing him down, but my actions bothered me. By yielding to my anger, I violated the golden rule. Furthermore, I broke my own standards. Although the road hog was obviously insensitive and deserved a wake-up call, I didn't have to live with him. I do have to live with myself.
Mute. Hi, we're back. I wanted to mention about the poem where we're driving on the freeway and there's a little bit of road rage. And speaking about anger, when I read Linda Ravenswood's poem, the poem Coffee and Rialto, you know, there's a story there, definitely. And I wanted to know a little bit more. And that's what I was pulling up to see. The first line, especially when you're so angry, it doesn't matter. And there's a lot of lines that begin that way, especially when you're so angry. And then the way that it ends, thank you, Sister Frances Mary. So do you think you could share with us a little bit about that story or your process behind anything you'd like to share about the poem?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess, well, Sister Frances Mary was my religion and biology teacher in grammar school. And she, as well as Sister Mary Leonella, they wore full dark blue habits. And if someone was annoying them, they would smack them. And I remember she actually hit me in the back of the head with the Bible once because she didn't think my eyes were on the appropriate passage. So yeah, it was really crazy. But so I think maybe that that poem has something to do with a kind of neuroses that happens in society when, well, the whole piece, the whole Coffee in Rialto 2-part piece is about that alienation and yet being completely and totally a part of everything that's going on, but feeling unseen or feeling misunderstood. And sort of the little strange ways that we try to make sense of the alienation that we can be involved with in our families or in our work, even in our city. And of course, the alienation of being a part of time, but also being so at the whim of time, and how destructive and complex it is to be a person in civilization. So that's sort of what that's about. And it's supposed to be funny. I mean, I hope it's funny, because being so angry about these existential things is actually very funny. So that's where the poem's coming from.
We have a comment here from Katie Porter. She says, yes, it seems we all have a very complicated relationship with the places we call home. So I thought that was interesting that your poem takes place in the coffee shop, and yet it's going back in time to those memories. And was that part of your process, do you think, going to coffee shops, writing, reflecting? Is that where we got the title Coffee in Rialto? Or
yeah, I don't know about other writers, but I do a lot of writing in coffee shops. I do a lot of writing while I'm driving. I mean, I don't actually take a pencil and like write while I'm on the road, but I do use I used to use a tape recorder, and now I use voice to text a lot. I used to write a lot in coffee shops, and those are sort of hubs for artists and writers. You can go there and it like make a pit stop that kind of becomes your whole ethos in a way. And I used to write on napkins a lot when I was a kid, and I'm sure we all did, napkins and paper placemats, and then would transfer those. And so it's a whole negotiation, like, who are we and what are these songs that we're singing, and is anybody listening? Maybe we're only listening ourselves and our ghosts, right? It's so hopeful. A coffee shop's a very hopeful place, I think.
yeah, coffee shops and museums, your other poem too. It sounded like maybe you wrote, or you frequent museums to do some writing or observing.
You're right, absolutely. I do. I wouldn't call them better days, but in the days before the pandemic, I used to go to Descanso Gardens. I used to go out to the desert a lot. My aunt lives in Rialto. I love to go out to the mountains there, up by Riley's farm, Lake Arrowhead, spending Thanksgiving in Lake Arrowhead. So yeah, I often travel out east, because I live in Los Angeles, but I travel and always have traveled out to the beauty of San Bernardino.
Well, I like how you bring that up, because I could kind of get a visual of all of the places in San Bernardino that a writer might be drawn to. Does anyone else have anything on that, your writing process or places that you've gone to and maybe you had a spontaneous poem come to mind, or maybe that's your go-to place, or you go by yourself to make sense of life and try not to feel so alienated by doing some writing. Carlos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Linda, in reference to the title of your poem, one of my favorite poems I've ever written is called Breakfast in Sun City. And it's about watching seniors talk to their kids and their grandkids sitting in booths in Cocos in Sun City. And so I agree with you that those are wonderful places to watch the world go by and to get ideas.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Writers are spies.
Yeah. How about anyone else about your process? Maybe you wake up every morning and you write at the same time and you don't go anywhere. You just stay in bed, or you have a certain place in your house you like to write. How about Michelle? Do you have a certain process for your writing?
I don't necessarily have a certain process. It just get inspired, or sometimes like that's why I started regularly attending the Inlandia workshops, because it was a great place to get like inspiration and writing prompts. We would get writing prompts, and then we would think about them, we'd write, and then we'd share aloud, and the other members would give us feedback, and we were able to do it that way. That I think that's my process, is doing it collaboratively within a workshop. I haven't been able to be active as much as I want to since the lockdown. I know Katie's been posting prompts daily, trying to get us all inspired to do a little bit of writing. But I'm more of the, I think, in person, like when it's done that way in the workshop, you meet together, get a little bit of silent writing, and then after like about 10-15 minutes, the leader of the workshop, we would share aloud, and then we'd like collaborate and give feedback with each other. So that's pretty much how I like to do that.
That's great. And that's a really good point. There's something really powerful about being around other writers, being around artists, inspiring each other, bouncing off of each other, laughing at ourselves. And, you know, that whole process has a beauty in itself, getting to know other people. And so that's really great that you do it that way. So bringing it back to San Bernardino, just an open question for anybody. If anybody wants to talk about what would you tell somebody that didn't know anything about San Bernardino? What, you know, to kind of burst the bubble, if they knew just what the news said, what would you want them to know? Or would you go into your own experiences and tell them from your experience? Let's see. Sheela, I can see.
Yeah, that.
There we go. I just unmuted. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My students would always say, why do they call us the ghetto of LA? And I'd say, we're not the ghetto of LA. We've got so much beauty, because that's the misnomer for San Bernardino, right? It's got so much beauty, and it inspires so much creative talent. This anthology is just, you know, a sliver of what San Bernardino represents. And for me, it's my primary home now, even though it was my secondary home by choice. And so the trails, the trails we've got, the natural wildlife that we've got, the forests, the lakes, it's just incredible. I always compare that to, because that's where I write the most every morning when I'm exercising. And it reminds me of, you know, Wordsworth and all of them in Northumberland. And I think nobody would connect San Bernardino with, you know, the lake area of England. But there are nooks and crannies of San Bernardino that just inspires so much.
Carlos.
Well, yeah, I've got a little story that connects them. My wife, Laurel, used to be in the comparative literature department at UCR. And one of the faculty members there, Hugo Rodriguez Alcala, a very renowned Paraguayan scholar. The two of them were walking across the UCR campus, and Hugo was very boisterous, said, "Oh, what a beautiful day. It reminds me of a day in San Bernardino." And lo and to. And so we're only 10 miles away. And he said, no, San Bernardino, Paraguay. so when she told me that story yesterday, I checked in the World Atlas, and there aren't very many San Bernardinos. I was surprised at how few there were.
Mm.
So it's a fairly unique name for a city.
That's true.
Linda, what would you tell people if people had never seen San Bernardino?
What would I tell people if they've never seen it?
Or what does it mean to you?
I would say imagine a place in a vast metropolis in the 21st century that still maintains its rugged, strange, beautiful, dry gusts. And imagine a place where you can hear yourself in the earth, of the earth, and be by yourself again. Some place where you can get away if you want to and see animals under shrubs and feel a part of the sky. It's like vast open country.
Right.
I like that varied explanation, and it's very magical. I know, Michelle, your poem spoke about that, about your experiences in San Bernardino. Do you think those are the ones that you would bring up if somebody wanted to know about the place or what it meant to you?
Yes, and I would definitely describe it as a community. I mean, well, when I was younger, I'm sure it's still community now, but I just remember going out to all these events, whether it was the Orange Show or going to up in the mountains when it snowed, and there was just people, it was a community where everybody enjoyed just being around each other. Downtown fiestas on like Cinco de Mayo. It's just people just came together to listen to music, have fun. So there's a definite sense of community, and I don't think people like maybe know that you know, if you're part of San Bernardino, you're part of San Bernardino. Yeah.
I always remembered the car shows. That was one of the biggest things that I would go down to and just, you know, check it out. And I mean, I think that is the most perfect place to have a car show and the community. So it's really fun.
Definitely.
And there's a question here from Ginger Galloway that I thought was pretty interesting. How does writing about your hometown make that place smaller or bigger? If anybody wants to jump in on that.
Well, I don't think it makes it smaller for sure.
Yeah, makes it bigger. It expands it now through this anthology. It's going everywhere. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does writing about a place make it more meaningful or more, draw out those details more, maybe for yourself or for others? In a sense, it makes it bigger in that way.
It uncovers little gems for people who never enjoy, you know, and who will never see San Bernardino in that light.
Right.
Something that's undiscovered about it, because they may be just looking at the misperceptions or the misconceptions.
Yes. And Sheela, you know, your poem Passion, San Bernardino Passion, such a juicy little poem. And I was wondering, you know, I mean, it's really a challenge to try to write something so compact with so much meaning and sensual sensory within it. So I was curious about that. Did that one just come to you, or did you have to whittle it down? How do you write short poems in that way?
For one thing, I'm a fruit freak. I literally love fruit, and I think of the persimmon as very an allegory for San Bernardino. In all its forms, the ones you bake, the ones you can eat, and so. And I think I've been teasing, all my mentors, starting with my teacher in elementary school, middle school, who taught me how to tease the beauty out of words, do it in a compact way. She helped me look at the beauty of words. So they kind of come to me, which sounds really crazy right now, but that's how it works. And San Bernardino actually freed that up, and so I've never seen that as a compact poem, but I love that you saw it that way. And every little thing, captured for me what was emblematic of San Bernardino. It's got its dark pockets, and then it's got this just absolutely lush beauty, which you have to actually look for, and you have to dig it out. Much of it is hidden. Like if I'm walking on a mountain trail and, I was stopped by a bobcat one day, and I couldn't believe it. And it was so gorgeous, and I just froze, because I remember in the back of my mind thinking, you're supposed to move, don't breathe, don't do anything. And it ran off after it gave me a quick look. And then later my brother said, you didn't have enough meat on your bones, so it left you alone. So for me, this poem just captured, it came to me, it literally did, because I'm just this huge, huge fruit freak. And that's the other thing about San Bernardino, that you get every kind of fruit seasonally. And, so and I looked at it as every time I eat a persimmon out here, because it was the first time I even heard of a fruit as persimmon when I came to San Bernardino. And so every time I bite into one, it reminds me of biting into the heart, the essence of San Bernardino.
Oh, wow. What a juicy note to leave that conversation on.
I'm so excited to read Sheela's poems.
I know.
And Sheela's poem that we were talking about is featured on the trailer for this book. So
yes, thank you guys.
On the Inlandia YouTube channel, you'll see that. So, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up now. And I'd like to thank our presenters. So Michelle Gonzalez, thank you for being here, and thank you for your contributions. Linda Ravenswood, Carlos Cortes, and Sheela Free. So thank you again. And what we're going to do is same time tomorrow. We're going to have Kathleen Alcala, Ruth Nolan, and Tom McGovern. So be sure to join us tomorrow and check out the social media platforms. Each one has a little bit of a different angle on the book, including artwork, quotes, and information about San Bernardino. So last but not least is the book is available on Amazon. It's available at Cellar Door Books and Barnes & Noble.
Yay!
So big round of applause for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.